All right, what up to the tribe? So, had the guys go out this weekend, and Brian and Cheyenne both lost to an inside heel hook, same type of position. So, I was going to shoot a video talking about the technical parts of the defense, but I wanted to talk a little bit more principle based about defense as it relates to grappling, striking, submission defense. So, in the specific position, and the technique video will cover this, both Brian and Cheyenne brought both of their feet together defensively. So that leg that was getting attacked, they brought the second leg over top. So basically by doing that, they're committing their resources, right? So defense has so many levels. The moment that any engagement begins, we start working defense, right? So if I'm in the middle of squeezing a rear naked choke, that's really good defense for me. Like, it's very difficult to tap me from there. If I'm in a fully locked rear naked choke, I can still resist and try to find air and try to maneuver my body to alleviate the pressure and try to put their body in position where they can't achieve all their finishing dynamics. So that's late pressure. That's like late submission defense. So all along the way, we have various ways of changing our body to give us more options. So if you want to think about it in striking terms, if I've got somebody pressed against the wall, then I have limited their defensive options because they can't move back. I've got a lot of space behind me. If we switch everything up, it automatically becomes vice versa, right? So the more I get pushed to the wall, the more my defensive options are limited. So generally speaking, this goes back to like Marine Corps doctrinal warfare. When we're in the defense, we don't want a static defense, we want a mobile defense. So you don't ever want to create a position that you're stuck in and then lock yourself down and hope it all works out. So from a fighting perspective, if we went to bottom turtle and locked ourselves in place, you're difficult to submit that way, but you're stuck in that spot. Whereas if I'm on my feet moving, my body may not structurally be in the most sound position to defend any submission, but it's difficult to track me down. So we want to be mobile in our defense, and we want our defense to have depth. So if you think about trench warfare, at first they would just dig trenches, but then you would break through the trenches, and then you have a line of trench that's basically worthless because the enemy is now behind it. So what they started doing is building depth to their defense. So they put obstacles in front of the trenches, then more obstacles, then more trenches. So each line they could fall back or move up as the engagement changed. And so you always want to think about that in your defense of how can I create more depth and give myself more offset before I get to that final position. So in the case of leg locks, sometimes we can either address the submission, which is kind of moving into that final defense phase, or switch it up and address the position that is causing the submission to be available. And sometimes by addressing the position first, you give yourself better options and you put more pressure on the attacker. It's very much like when I'm trying to put a guillotine on somebody, if they address my hands, that makes my life pretty easy. If they try to flee the position by bringing their butt up and tripoding and backing away from my choke, that actually forces me to speed up my order of operations and gives them a better chance of escaping completely. So it's one of those things of sometimes we want to address the submission, but if we can address something further back in that chain, then all of a sudden they have to give up the submission. And I'll post up a technique video that kind of talks about this specific to the inside heel hook, and I'll post up a BJJ Scout video that goes along with this. Defense in depth, mobile defense versus static defense. Think about it.